Welcome back to the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Wu Ruiguo. In this segment, we will continue our conversation with Professor Li Yun-Jie of the National Open University on the recently held G20 summit meeting in London. Yun-Jie, we know that earlier in April that there was a G20 Group of 20 summit meeting.
Yes.
This is the first summit meeting of such a magnitude attended by the newly elected and newly inaugurated President of the United States, Mr. Barack Obama. And certainly that there were a lot of discussions went on at the G20 summit, and particularly two countries that the rest of the world were looking up to. One is, of course, the United States. The other one was China. Okay.
So they call it G2.
Yeah, that's right. Now it's probably no longer G20, but G2. But what do you think? Such an international financial forum, such a summit meeting. What would the summit meeting do to help tackle the global financial crisis? And do you think their suggestions and their efforts are going to be effective in relieving the world of the financial pains?
Yeah, I think basically, it depends. But in principle, I agree with the slogan of the G20.
Yes.
The global crisis requires a global solution.
Yes.
So the agreement G20 have reached to treble resources available to IMF to 750 billion to support a new SDR allocation of 250 billion to support at least 100 billion of additional lending by the MDBS to ensure 250 billion of support to the trade finance and to use the additional resources from the agreed IMF gold sales for concessional finance for the poorest countries, constitute an additional 1.1 trillion program of support to restore credit, growth, and jobs in the world economy. And theoretically, if those consensus work well, and then I would say that they will be helpful, for the economy around the world. But as you know, G20 also conclude that the strengthening financial supervision and the regulation and strengthening global financial institutions are pivotal. But I think, it depends on the how they work together.
Yes.
It is a problem of the collective action.
Yeah, in any place.
And we can talk later.
Yes, but Yun-Jie, a lot of people said that because of the global financial crisis so serious this time, that this is a perfect opportunity for the governments around the world to re-examine their financial supervision at home, and also the international regulatory mechanism, including IMF and the World Bank.
Yes.
And then another thing is that some of these G20 countries feel like that they don't have enough of a presence. They're not given the due respect or the role to speak on important issues. And for example, some countries like Japan, they have contributed a lot of the relief money into the IMF, but they don't feel like that they are adequately represented in the decision-making process. So some of the governments are calling for reorganization within these international financial institutions to have their views be heard, their presence being felt in the decision-making process. What do you think about that?
You mentioned that Japan contributes 100 million to the IMF.
Yeah.
And I give you additional information.
Yes.
And they ask China to give the same amount.
Yes.
But
China turned it down.
But China said, no, I only got 40. So it's funny because China gives so few amount of money then less than they expected. But the role of China is rising.
Yes.
In this conference, as you can see.
Yeah.
So so that Japan is is so jealous.
Of course.
So jealous. But that's a trend. You cannot resist. China is rising is a fact. It's a reality.
Yes.
So my observation is that China is gonna play more and more important role in the world economy. But I think they should, make more contribution to the world economy. To
assume greater responsibility
yes.
in the process.
Yes.
And we also talked earlier, Yun-Jie, about these measures that are promulgated by the international financial institutions, and they need to be effectively implemented. What do you think are some of the likely problems, in terms of implementing these measures by the IMF or by the World Bank?
Okay. According to the consensus of the G20 leaders, quote, together with the measures we have taken nationally, this constitutes a global plan for recovery on an unprecedented scale. Well, this is the first challenges for putting those practice putting those consensus into practice. I mean, I think it's not easy for the G20, for the 20 countries to take actions and cooperate together. The first one problem is the free rider problems and the self-interest of members. Probably make the practice more difficult. And for example, the G20, I mean the actions of the G20 will constitute the largest fiscal and monetary stimulus and the most comprehensive support program for the financial sector in modern times. Acting together strengthens the impact of the exceptional policy action announced so far must be implemented without delay. G20 have agreed over 1 trillion of additional resources for the world economy through international financial institutions and trade finance. Now the point is no one can guarantee that the action each member is going to take will not be delayed. I mean, that's a problem. Because the first priority for those countries to think about is their self-interest. So maybe some countries they would show their efficiency, but some countries would delay. Maybe.
And also I think, Yun-Jie, what you mentioned goes to the root of the another problem, which is a different set of priority exists between the countries. For example, before the G20 summit in London, countries like Germany and France wanted to establish international supervisory committee to oversee that international regulations and rules are faithfully implemented on financial regulations. But that's not the top priority for example, for the United States. The United States wanted everybody to spend more money to stimulate investment, to stimulate spending. So I think the different priorities held by different countries could really be an issue. Would you agree with that is also a problem?
Definitely. I absolutely agree with your point. I mean this is the biggest challenges in terms of collective action problem. Because everybody has his self-interest. So I think that those trade factor consensus reached at G20, including resisting protectionism and promoting global trade and investment, are pivotal for restoring global growth. And so I think, we'll see.
We'll see how the measures will actually pan out. And if we may shift the focus down, narrower a little bit, and talk about the impact on Taiwan's economy. We're also one of the largest world trading nation, and then close to 70% of our GDP is on export. And certainly in Q4 of 2008, our exports suffered tremendously, including the exports to the United States, to Japan, as well as to China. How would you think that the IMF rescue plans and measures, how would that impact or help our export performance for Taiwan in the remainder of 2009?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I think so. I think it would be helpful, to some extent. But I mean, as like you say, the Taiwan export, contributes 60% to 70% of GDP. So invigorating the trade and investment would be in favor of Taiwan's trade.
Hold that thought, Yun-Jie, because we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. On Taiwan Outlook, we'll continue this conversation with Professor Li Yun-Jie of the National Open University. We'll be right back.